Saudi Arabia is trying to build something so massive, it almost doesn't sound real. A futuristic city in the middle of the desert, a city covered in mirrors, a city with no cars, no roads, and supposedly powered almost entirely by artificial intelligence. And the price tag? Nearly $1 trillion. At first, people thought it was just another bold Gulf mega project. But as more details started coming out, the world realized this wasn't just about luxury buildings or tourism. Saudi Arabia is attempting to redesign how humans could live in the future. But behind the flashy trailers and cinematic presentations, reports of exploding costs, engineering nightmares, secret redesigns, and growing controversy have started raising a serious question. Is this the future of civilization, or the most expensive mistake ever built? The project is called Neom, and at the center of it is something known as the Line, a gigantic mirrored city stretching 170 kilometers across the Saudi desert. To put that into perspective, it would be longer than the distance between some major cities. The plan sounds almost impossible. 9 million people living inside two parallel skyscrapers. No cars, no traditional streets. Everything connected by underground high-speed transit. Saudi officials claim residents could travel from one end to the other in just 20 minutes. And the design itself looks straight out of science fiction. Massive mirrored walls, rising out of the desert like something from another planet. The city would supposedly run on renewable energy, powered by AI systems that manage transportation, security, and even daily life. But this wasn't just a random idea. The entire project is tied to Saudi Arabia's biggest fear, the world eventually moving beyond oil. For decades, Saudi Arabia became one of the richest countries on earth because of petroleum. But leaders inside the kingdom know something important. Oil may not dominate forever. Electric vehicles are growing, renewable energy is expanding, and global economies are slowly changing. So Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched something called Vision 2030, a giant plan to transform Saudi Arabia into a global center for tourism, technology, business, and luxury living before oil demand eventually slows down. And Neom became the centerpiece of that vision. Saudi Arabia didn't just want another city. They wanted something so futuristic that the entire world would pay attention. Something capable of competing with places like Dubai, Singapore, and Silicon Valley all at once. That's why Neom includes way more than just the line. There are plans for a floating industrial port, a luxury island resort, an AI-powered business hub, even a ski resort in the desert called Trojena, where officials claim people could eventually ski outdoors despite the region's brutal heat. The message was clear. Saudi Arabia wasn't planning for the future anymore. They wanted to own it. And for a while, the world was fascinated. Celebrities visited the site, investors showed interest, promotional videos spread across social media like movie trailers. Some people even called it the beginning of a new civilization. But behind the scenes, cracks were already starting to appear. Because the deeper experts looked into the project, the more impossible the numbers began to seem. Reports started suggesting the true cost of Neom could become far higher than originally announced. Some analysts claimed the full vision might eventually require well over $1 trillion across multiple decades. And then came rumors of internal financial concerns. According to reports and leaked discussions, some officials allegedly worried the project's projections were overly optimistic. Questions surfaced about whether enough people would actually move there. Others reportedly questioned whether investors could realistically recover costs from such an extreme project. And then there were the delays. Construction footage showed progress happening far slower than many expected. Reports claimed parts of the original plan may have quietly been reduced or delayed. Some estimates suggested only a small portion of the line might actually be completed by 2030. Online speculation exploded. Was Saudi Arabia secretly scaling the project back? Officials continued insisting everything was moving forward. But critics argued the original vision may have simply been too massive to achieve on schedule. And honestly, the engineering challenges alone sound insane. Imagine trying to build two enormous mirrored skyscrapers across one of the harshest desert environments on Earth. Temperatures can become brutal. Sandstorms are common. Basic construction becomes far more difficult in those conditions. Then there's the water problem. A city with millions of residents would require unbelievable amounts of fresh water in a region where water's already scarce. That means massive desalination systems, huge energy demands, and incredibly expensive infrastructure just to keep daily life functioning. And that's only the beginning. The city's mirrored exterior has also raised environmental concerns. Some experts warned it could confuse migratory birds and impact wildlife. Others questioned how heat reflection might affect surrounding ecosystems. But perhaps the biggest challenge is the city's actual structure itself. Human civilization has never attempted anything like this before. A vertical linear city designed to hold millions of people in Saudi officials denied wrongdoing and defended the development process. But criticism online continued growing. For many people, the contrast felt impossible to ignore. On one side, you had glossy, futuristic advertisements showing luxury lifestyles, flying taxis, and AI-driven cities. On the other, reports of displacement, labor concerns, and enormous secrecy surrounding the project. And that tension only intensified as new rumors started appearing. Because over the past few years, reports have suggested Saudi Arabia may already be quietly adjusting its original plans. Some claims suggest population targets were reduced. Others say parts of the line could be shortened or completed in phases much smaller than initially promised. There's also growing speculation that Saudi Arabia may shift more focus toward artificial intelligence infrastructure, data centers, robotics, and tech investment, rather than rushing to complete the full mega city exactly as first presented. And honestly, that might make sense. Even partially completed, Neom could still become one of the most technologically advanced regions on Earth. Saudi Arabia has already poured enormous money into AI, robotics, renewable energy, and futuristic infrastructure projects. So some analysts believe the kingdom may care less about finishing every dramatic concept image, and more about transforming itself into a global tech power before the rest of the region catches up. But online discussions continue asking the same question. How much of the original dream will actually become reality? Because history is filled with giant projects that sounded revolutionary before running into reality. Massive ambitions often collide with economics, engineering, politics, or simple human behavior. And yet, despite all the criticism, the world still can't stop watching Neom. Because even if the project never fully reaches its original vision, it already changed the global conversation about the future of cities. Governments, tech companies, architects, and billionaires everywhere are now exploring AI-controlled infrastructure, smart cities, automated transportation, and entirely new ways humans could live. Neom became more than just a construction project. It became a symbol of what happens when unlimited ambition meets unlimited money, a symbol of humanity trying to engineer the future itself. They believe cities like Neom could solve traffic, pollution, overcrowding,